Hello, I'm Ben. Welcome to the channel. So today we're going to talk about 20 Stoic principles that can help you develop mental strength and resilience. And these are also principles that have been practiced for years. A lot of books that come out in business and psychology or even sociology around business, it talks about these principles. And you'll see that from a religion standpoint, a lot of things that are taught, it basically supports what's being said here and that Stoic understanding. So you can see the thumbnail. That's what I'm looking at. That's what we'll go through. And take a picture of that and keep that on your phone. It's good to read this and read through it often so you can see what's there. When you're seeking out wisdom, it's great to see stuff that stood for many, many years. Stoicism has stood for about 2 millennia, so 2,000 years there. And the Stoic thought process is that you don't overreact to things that are brought to you. You have to understand that life goes through ups and downs, and how you respond typically has a greater impact on how things are going to go for you than actually the event you're in. So let's dive into this. We'll try to make this a fairly quick video, but it should be beneficial to you if you're in a mindset where you're trying to expand, or you're trying to do well in a job or a career, or where you're trying to seek out continued education to get into something else that you're doing as well. Okay, so number one, this is actually something I've taught to leadership throughout my career for over 20 years. Focus on what you can control. So in your day-to-day routine, there's going to be a lot of things way outside of your control. You can't help what people think, what they feel, and what they say. What you can do is directly impact those things that are in your control so you have the best result. That sometimes will give you a better payoff or a better response to what's going on around you than participating in it. Focus on what you can control. Direct your energy and efforts towards things within your control, such as your thoughts, your actions, and your attitudes. That's number one. Number two is practice self-discipline daily. You want to cultivate self-discipline in small matters to build the inner strength needed for more significant challenges. Self-discipline, I've talked about that before. Typically, when you see people perform that are religious or have a religious belief, they typically have greater self-discipline because they're holding themselves to some moral code, whatever that may be. So in the culture that you're in, or in the lifestyle that you're leading, if you practice self-discipline, typically that's going to make you a little bit more stoic so you don't overly respond. The word triggered is one that's been popular in recent years. I think it's ridiculous for human beings to be triggered. The more you act out of line, the less control, the less self-discipline you're showing, and that shows a lack of maturity and a lack of emotional intelligence. So that's why self-discipline is so important, and we should practice it daily. Number three is treat adversity as training, because ultimately it is. Life is a challenge. And so what you want to do is you want to see how you treat that adversity. If you treat it as training, then it's education. You're going to grow through it. You're going to know that no matter what, challenges are going to come. And if you view challenges as opportunities to practice virtue and to build mental toughness, you'll see that as the challenges come, you'll do better each time. You'll graduate from one to the next. And that's really how you should see it. And some challenges are very great, okay? And so the lessons there may be very great as well. So that's number three, treat adversity as training. 4 is accept impermanence. When you accept impermanence, you recognize that everything is temporary. So that means the good is unfortunately temporary, but then again, so is the bad. So that high and low, it keeps coming. Everything is temporary. So if you accept that impermanence, you should be able to navigate the waters when it gets pretty tough out there. 5 is choose your reactions. Spoke briefly on that earlier. Consciously choose your responses to external events rather than impulsively reacting. Impulsively reacting, you may not have the response, or you may not say the things you want to say. Earlier videos, we talked about the value of the pause. This is what that's talking about. Pause for a moment to wrap your mind around the situation, what you're in, what you're thinking, and how you're going to respond. So that brings up number 6, practice mindfulness. Be fully present in each moment, appreciating the beauty and richness of life. If you focus too much on the future, you could be worried about things. If you focus too much on the past, you can be thinking about guilt and everything else. And by doing that, you're robbing yourself of the value of today. Today, you can teach yourself something that will make you better tomorrow than you were yesterday. And that should be how you're thinking, okay? As a human being, as a mammal on this planet, the idea is that we get better every day until we meet meet our last day. Okay. Visualize worst case scenarios. You want to contemplate those. That's number 7. You want to contemplate potential setbacks to prepare yourself mentally and reduce the fear of unknown. It's very simple. Bad stuff's going to happen. That stuff's coming at you. So if you're contemplating, not worrying about them, but you're thinking about them so you can be better prepared mentally. And when it hits, you're not surprised. You've already got measures in place to handle it in a calm manner. 8 is extremely important. Be grateful. Focus on what you have rather than what you lack. When you do this, you're fostering an environment of contentment and joy. By doing that, you will naturally be a more positive person. Positive people are more successful. That's a fact. So number 8 is be grateful. Number 9 is see obstacles as opportunities. There's been books written on this subject alone. Reframe challenges as chances to grow, learn, and become more resilient. Number 10 is seek virtuous action. You want to prioritize virtuous behavior over fleeting pleasures. Aligning actions with your values. You need to decide what your values are, and this is at whatever age you're at, right? And what you did before doesn't matter. If you can realign, reassess, and correct yourself, that's what that is. So seek virtuous action. Some people think that has something to do with religion. It does not, okay? It has simply how you're responding as a mature human being on this earth to have the greatest impact you can have helping and assisting others, but also in your own education and your own improvement. You want to seek that virtuous action. You want to do what's right, and you want to prioritize your behavior to make sure you are being who you are, okay? Not being who a group wants you to be or being how a set wants you to be. You want to prioritize this behavior so you can be who you are. Align your actions with your values, okay? Number 11 is practice non-attachment. Avoid becoming overly attached to possessions, outcomes, or others' opinions. I'll say this. When you practice non-attachment, you become more calloused around the edges, which makes you less fragile to what comes along. Okay? So you don't want to be aloof where you don't care about anything, but if you become overly attached to things, you will fear losing them too greatly, that it can impact that virtuous thought process that we were talking about earlier. So practice non-attachment. The next 12 is remember your mortality. This is huge. Memento mori, I have a ring that I wear on a regular occasion. One day you will die. That's what this means. Remember your mortality. Reflect on the impermanence of life to appreciate its preciousness and make the most of it. A lot of people, most people, spend too much time and they fill too much of their day over stuff of no value. Meaning it's not bettering you, it's not bettering the situation for anyone else. It's not real enjoyment, it's temporary or fleeting enjoyment. So it's not a situation where you're impacting things. If you talk or if you read, there's a video on the channel about older people. Most of them are over the year of 95. So between 95 and 104, I think, was the oldest gentleman in that group. All of them reflected on what they regretted in life. And the majority of them did not reflect on things or regret things rather that they did. More so, they regretted things that they didn't do. Because they didn't do it because they thought there was plenty of time, right? That impermanence of life, you're not promised another day. Any of us can die any day in a car wreck or something like that. It happens every single day of the year. So you want to remember that, and you want to do something where you're enjoying yourself every day. You're enjoying those around you. You're showing care. My grandmother used to say, don't say anything mean as your last words, because everyone you know in life, one day you will see them for the last time. And no one knows what that day will be. Maybe they will be gone. Maybe you will be gone. Maybe you both will be gone. But that last day, just think about that. If you're thinking about your mortality and the impermanence of life, you treat others with a little bit more compassion, and that leads to 13. Be kind and empathetic. And that's saying treat others with more compassion and understanding, recognizing that their struggles are theirs, and recognize their humanity. Humanity is very simple, meaning people feel for the people in their lives. And your life, if you think about how you view things, is the most important thing going on, right? So you're focused on your problems. Well, other people going through life going the same way. A lot of times people think others are paying attention to them. They're looking at me. They're thinking about me. They're talking about me. And I'm going to tell you, no, they're not. No one cares, okay? So if you think about that, they're too busy in their own heads with their own problems, fighting their own battles. just like you're in your head most of the time fighting your own battles. So remember that treating people with compassion and being empathetic, that's a sign of maturity, that's a sign of emotional intelligence, and that shows that you are more stoic in your responses, which means ultimately you should feel more fulfilled in the life you're leading, and you should leave a better opinion in others of you because you handle them in this way. And this way is the way to be. This way is the way to be a human and the way to treat other people. That is inclusivity. That is treating people like they matter. And all you have to do is be kind and be empathetic. That is something that's taught in all religions and all faiths. So it should not be a problem for people to discuss. Number 14 is extremely important. I don't hear it talked about often. That's why I talk about it quite regularly on this channel. You have to control your inner dialogue. When I've talked to people in the past, and I've counseled thousands of people at this point that were teammates and people that came to me for cultivation, or maybe it was consulting or some type of commitment that I had made to them or the group they're with or whatever else. And in that, the biggest issue most of these people have, the biggest challenge to their lifestyle, is their inner dialogue. They have no control over what they tell themselves. And here's what I want you to think. Think about the things you say in your head, okay? Think about what you're saying to yourself about how you look, how you feel, how you dress, what you did, how you compete, how you do whatever, okay? And now imagine that someone else said those things to you. You wouldn't tolerate it. So the biggest thing I would say about controlling your inner dialogue, you have to monitor your thoughts and challenge negative self-talk to cultivate a positive mindset. The idea is positivity is power. So you have to cultivate a positive mindset. But the point of this is no one is more negative to you about you than you are in your own head. So control your inner dialogue. Make sure that you're positive. Make sure that you're not beating yourself up. Be a friend to yourself. If you're a friend to yourself and you take care of the words and the things you say to yourself, you're going to have a more positive outlook. And that's going to make you more competitive in the world. It's going to make you a happier person. It's going to let you focus on that attitude of gratitude so you're more grateful in your life. And those things will help cultivate better relationships because people are attracted to all of those personality types. But when you're negative and you're beating yourself up all day, you're going to beat yourself into a gutter, and that's not going to be stuff that people want to be around, okay? So there's multiple points of this. The biggest is your own mental health. So if you want to have good mental health, you got to have some self-discipline around controlling your inner dialogue, okay? So you see a lot of these things are wrapped up with each other, which they should be because it's all talking about your personality and how you treat yourself internally. 15 is focus on the present. Avoid dwelling on the past or overly worrying about the future. The only way you can impact the future is do what you need to do today. There is no way to do anything about anything in the past, okay? So find contentment in the present moment. Focus on today. Do all you can today. And when you do, be done. Call it a day. Take a shower, get a nap, do something fun, whatever it is. But find contentment in the present moment. Do all you can and then call it a day and be happy in the moment. If you're too focused on the future, you're going to miss today and you're going to be worried about stuff that's outside of your control. If you focus on the day, you can only focus on what you're controlling, and the past is the past. You can't do anything about it anyway, okay? Engage in self-reflection. That's number 16. Regularly examine your thoughts, your actions, and progress in living virtuously. So when you look up the virtues, there's a bunch of different lists of virtues, right? Stoicism has a specific list of virtues. You can look up Stoic virtues. I'll do a video on that at some point and tell you what those are. But you can look it up online. The Chinese mantra has specific virtues. In yoga, they have virtues that they talk about that comes from some of those elemental processes. So when you are looking and engaging in self-reflection, you're regularly examining your thoughts, actions, and your progress and living virtuously, which means the way you believe that you should live, okay? From your beliefs. I'm not talking about, I'm going to be a billionaire. I'm talking about, I want to be a good person. I want to have an impact on the world. When I leave, there will be a legacy that is positive. People will think a certain way and they'll miss me for the right reasons, not something else, okay? That's how you're living virtuously. 17 is face fear head on. Confront your fears and anxieties with rationality, realizing that they hold less power than what you can possibly give them or what they seem. And I've posted videos and talked about this before. Where faith and fear they're never together, right? So if you have faith in a higher power and you have faith in your own abilities, and you have faith that you survived everything else that came up to you, then fear really doesn't have a place in your world, okay? So confront your fears and anxieties. If you do that with rationality and you use reason, you will see that they're not bigger than what you can handle. Now, I'm not saying people don't have legitimate reasons to be fearful. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, to put your best action forward so you can have the best result you possibly can, you have to confront these fears with rationality and reason. And what that will do, it'll let you work your way through it as best you possibly can. Okay, that's number 17, face fear head on. Number 18 is practice moderation, avoid excess, and balance your desires, fostering inner harmony and self-control. The more self-control you have, the better off you are mentally. The more self-control you have in avoiding excess and all that stuff, the healthier you're going to be. You're not going to overeat. You're not going to overindulge. You're not going to be alcoholic. You're not going to be an addict, right? There's a ton of things that come from this practicing moderation. And that's the thing about moderation. Typically, you can tolerate a lot if you don't do it often, right? So avoid excess and practice moderation. 19 is learn from role models. Study lives of virtuous individuals for inspiration and guidance on ethical living. Now, I would say this here. Know what a true role model is, okay? You need to know what a true role model is and make sure you know what that looks like. Because if you're modeling after someone that's a failure, then it's going to lead you to the same path. If you're modeling yourself out of someone that's successful and they do it in a virtuous way and it's ethical, that means not only can you do that, you can get, even if you fall short, you're still going to be a success because you're going to be ethically right. You're going to be in a virtuous situation where people are going to respect you. Respect garners attention, and attention in this modern world is power. So you want to study these lives of these virtuous individuals and then model that as best you can. And you do this because wisdom is simply learning from other people's mistakes, okay? Modeling people is the best way to learn from them. So when you learn from other people's mistakes, then you don't have to make those mistakes. You kind of start where they left off. So that's bringing you up each time you move through, and that's why role models are specifically important. And the 20th one on this list, the final one on the list, is persist in the face of difficulty. Perseverance in your pursuit of virtue, even when the path is challenging, knowing that growth comes from overcoming obstacles. You'll see that 3 things on this list pretty much said that life is growth if you view it appropriately. When other people think, well, let's say this, the majority of things people end up having to confront comes from choices they make, okay? There are some things that are outside of our power when it comes from health or finance or these type things. You may be born in a situation where you don't have a lot of possibilities in front of you, and you have to fight and scratch to get out of that, to get to those. Whatever that is, you do that. Your story is no different than anyone else's. Everybody is facing challenges, okay? And for them, some may be severe. Some of yours may be more severe. That's not the point. The point is the more you persist in the face of difficulty, the more you're going to build up that perseverance. And that perseverance that we're talking about, that ability to not stop and no quit, when you do that, that's a superpower. When you think about perseverance, think about water. Think about the Grand Canyon. I mentioned that before. That was a trickling little stream that over a very long period of time cut a very huge gorge in the earth, right? That's what perseverance is, or perseverance, however you say it. That's what that is. It comes from having no quit, knowing that growth comes from overcoming obstacles, and whatever the obstacle is in front of you, you can ultimately learn from it and outgrow it. So hopefully you like this content. If you like content such as this, please like, share, and subscribe. We'll add some more videos on this. I think Stoic thought is the most important for all people to learn. I think in a world where we don't teach the classics. The biggest piece about the classics that were studied for the last 3 centuries in Western civilization is they taught all of these things through different stories that were told, right? If you think about the natives in America, most of their stories were passed down, most of their history and wisdom was passed down through storytelling. It's the same thing in Asia. It's the same thing with a lot of other communities before there was education or the ability for people to read. The storytelling, the memorization of a story was how you came up with all of this content that we're talking about here. And the Stoic thought's been around for thousands of years, but it's been written well for the last 2,000. And these things, if you look at the books that are New York Times bestsellers, that are nonfiction, over the last 200 years, you'll see that all of them come from some thought process that we just discussed around the principles in Stoic thought. So study this material, keep this piece, like and subscribe, please. If you're not already subscribed, share the video if you have the ability to do that on your platforms. I appreciate your attention. Be good.